MAGA enraged over the apparent cover-up of the Epstein files, and more coming up on the Damage Report. I'm Iadarola, and it's Big News Wednesday. And also Sharon's here. Sharon Reed, how's it going?
It's so funny to think about what some people get outraged over. I'm doing well. It'll be a good show.
I think it makes sense. I mean, almost nothing makes sense about their psychology, and they're all out of their mind. But if you believe all the things that they've believed, then yeah, you should be pretty mad about what's going on right now. So we're gonna be covering that. But also, late breaking, their new defense mechanism, the mental gymnastics, they're gonna help them stay a part of the MAGA movement. So we have a lot of fun stuff in that. We've got more tariff chaos. Coming up in the aftermath, we're gonna have Kristi Noem engaging in a little cosplay contest. That's a lot of fun, and a whole lot more besides. Oh, also, Zoran Mamdani posted something on social media that I, as an Italian, might have to denounce him for. So everybody stay tuned for that. Did he cross a line, okay? But anyway, before we jump into all that, how you doing? How's Big News Wednesday treating you?
Me or
you?
Our beautiful audience.
Everybody else can answer too, but I'm not gonna hear it. I can hear you.
It's treating me well. I've been getting things done, mostly shopping for an attorney to sue an insurance company who's not paying out. And this is, I reveal these things, too much information, because look, folks, someone's always trying to get over on just everyday Americans. The journalist in me, I can't let it stand. So now we have to play hardball.
I agree, and I think that lawyer, after they get done with this first case, should probably move on to the overpriced bicycle.
May do that as well.
You might have to. Everybody, watch the old episodes, and you'll know what we're talking about. But anyway, we do have a lot to get to. So hit the like button if you're on a platform where that's a thing. Send in your comments, or tweets, or super chats, and all that. And we're gonna jump into the news, starting with this.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy.
Well, I think Grandpa does protest too much. I'm sure he thinks that's gonna shut the whole thing up, but that freak out to me is just even more reason to believe that they're hiding something. Or at the very least, if you are inclined to believe that they're hiding something, why would this dissuade you from it? The fact that, well, we have Texas, so shut up about this creep. Are you still talking about this creep? Dude, you've been talking about this creep for years. Everyone around that table, many of them made their names talking about that creep for years, and now, done. Move on, we're not talking about it anymore because we've got such success. Also tragedy, everything's the best and the worst simultaneously, whatever it needs to be. So look, that's super suspicious, and to the very limited credit I will give some people in the MAGA movement, they are freaking out about what this seems to be, which is a massive betrayal of the conspiracy theory they've been trained to believe. And so we're gonna get to all of that. First here, Mamdani did eventually respond. Take a look.
In February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every year, every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Oh, I feel so much better about how clearly uncomfortable she is during that entire thing. She doesn't like any of this, partly because maybe they're covering it up, partly because she knows how much she talked about Epstein before. Okay, so every tape has a minute missing. Don't be suspicious. Every tape just has a minute missing, which is the hardest to believe thing in the world. Or maybe it's true, in which case, if there's actually a minute that apparently everybody involved in the prison system knows you're not gonna have video of, well, that seems like kind of a window that you could exploit if you had knowledge of it. Again, I'm not asserting that anything untoward happened. I just know that according to their cover story, the video they released isn't definitive, doesn't prove that nobody got in there. I'm not gonna go through all the evidence from the frame by frame of the video, but there's a lot of analyses online showing how little it actually shows and how many questions it actually raises about what's going on. Now she's saying we're gonna look for another tape. Well, then why did you release that tape? And why did you respond to a question about the client list with "it's on the table" if you just meant other paperwork? If at this point, years into the investigation, nearly 6 years after he died, there's no evidence of a client list at all, why are you not prepared to give it some caveats or something? You just, again, responded as if, sure, yeah, the client list is a thing, when evidently it had never ever been a thing. And so this is just, again, I'm not saying that they are definitely covering something up. I'm just saying it's like they're trying to generate furor online about a cover up. Sharon, what do you think?
Sorry, my daughter ordered DoorDash again without permission. Here's what I think. My first analysis is that Marco Rubio looked absolutely constipated. That's how uncomfortable he was in the middle of this sandwich here with the press asking these questions. Look, she's not being honest, and she wasn't being honest in the Fox News interview either. Okay, show us the information, because now I don't think it's a case of the cover up is bigger than what we'd find. But it's pretty big and it's pretty obvious, I think. So bravo, MAGA, conspiracy, investigators, whatever you want to call them. Let's keep going with this.
Yeah. Look, I will give my most honest take. I'm not saying I think Trump is definitely on there, or Bill Clinton is definitely on there, or some billionaire donor is definitely on there, or whatever. It's entirely possible that none of that is true. I will simply say, I find it very hard to believe that nobody else committed any crimes and there's no evidence of anything. I find that very hard to believe with how well connected he is and how many flights they took there and how many people we know were on those flights. There is not one fact that you did not know that is worth saying. That strikes me as unlikely. Again, I'm not saying Trump is on there. And by the way, even if it is a cover up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a cover up because he's on there. Some people believe it could be a cover up because of other people that donate to the party or whatever, or other politicians are on there. But I will give one other explanation. I think maybe an even more plausible explanation as to why Donald Trump is reacting the way he is. When he's like, you're talking about this creep, which you have talked about, you've hyped it up. Everybody in your campaign, everybody in your cabinet, your Dan Bongino, your Kash Patel, your Pam Bondi, all of them, Laura Loomer, everybody around you has been talking about it nonstop and you loved it. And now everybody needs to shut up. It could just be because he never believed any of it. He finds conspiracy theories useful for the rubes. It's red meat to give to these dumb donkeys that he doesn't care at all about. Yeah, go crazy. Oh, deep state. Oh, these pedophiles or whatever. Get out of here. I'm not gonna actually hang out with you. You just talk about that online. You believe that I'm the guy that's gonna solve it all and uncover it all. But now I'm in power. don't care about that anymore. I never meant any of that. So can we move on to other stuff that I'm more interested in? Again, I'm not saying that's what it is. It could still be a cover up, but I think that's also a plausible explanation. It's just, he never really meant any of it, and he would prefer to not have to listen to your conspiratorial peasant talk anymore. I don't know.
Can I just say one other thing?
Sure.
I apologize. I think blackmail could very well have something to do with this. You mentioned big donors. You mentioned that he's probably not, he didn't do it alone. There's other people on this list, this Epstein whatever orbit. And I just think that it would be like someone to shake down people who perhaps are mentioned, even in innocuous ways, or connected to Jeffrey Epstein. I think they'd have big money, and that could go a long way. But that maybe I'm just, going too far.
I think that's a possibility, and a bigger version of that we're gonna get to as part of their coping mechanism. But really fast, there are MAGA people online that are feeling very betrayed by this. All of them pay Elon Musk to be on Twitter. But anyway, some say things like, I'm MAGA, I'm very disappointed to see him mock the reporter speaking for the American people. And again, it's not like the reporter came up and was like, hey, Trump, are you on the list? It was a thing about national security, working with foreign governments. It was the easiest, lightest touch possible, and still Trump was freaking out about it. And yes, they're saying this is a gut punch for all us women that voted for him. This is the first gut punch to women that voted for Donald Trump. You're cool with all the other stuff, okay? Anyway, the Hodge twins said Trump telling everybody to just get over the Epstein list is a slap in the face to people that voted for him. He's done a lot of good things, but this is really bad, y'all, and we won't be quiet about it. And that might be true, and I know that because they never stop talking. But also, I have a feeling they'll still support him for the rest of their lives. But Chuck Colesta says Trump is the best president we have had, but man, is he handling the Epstein case poorly. He's great on all these things, but on this minor thing, where we've believed that there's an elite ring of pedophiles that are protected by those in power, and now Trump seems to be a part of that. The thing that formed like the philosophical basis of our entire movement for years. On that minor thing, he's not good, but other than that, he's great. So anyway, we know that there's been, for them, they're trying to be consistent. There's others that have changed the way they've talked about Epstein before and after Donald Trump was in charge of the investigation. So why don't we jump to a little bit of that?
Ghislaine Maxwell, Black Book. What names are in there, man? You understand how many powerful people probably want this thing to desperately go away?
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
It's the same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing?
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Well, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, a suicide when you see one.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, the question had nothing to do with any of those other files. So again, it's just so suspicious. And by the way, so all of them, they didn't just say it's being covered up. They encouraged people to obsess over it. They encouraged people to support Donald Trump as the only person that could blow the lid off of this thing. And also, lest you forget, they made names and fame and social media followings and bank for themselves by talking ad nauseum about this. Dan Bongino did, I don't even, dozens, hundreds of shows about that. And now, I know, he killed himself. Well, how about this? If it turns out that you were just so obsessively wrong about this, and now you know that it wasn't a cover up, then you don't get to just come out and say, I killed himself, shut up about it. No, we need to start to get some apologies. You need to apologize to Joe Biden and the DOJ under Joe Biden and all of those investigators and Attorney General Merrick Garland, the people that you smeared for literally years over this. You should apologize to your audience for apparently, even if not intentionally, which I think it was, but let's say it's not intentionally, wasting their time for years while teaching them to assume that at the heart of every story in politics is an elite cabal of pedophiles or whatever. Could you start to take ownership of the fact that you were apparently epically, cosmically wrong about something that you presented as the most important thing going on in America? And yet we've got none of that. All we've got is, turns out there was nothing. Shut up about it. Let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Some other conspiracy theory. Let's give something else to the peasants. I don't know. I feel like, Sharon, I think we're owed a little bit more than that. And maybe not us. They don't care about us. But definitely the MAGA movement is owed more than that.
Yeah, your loyal base. It's like locking someone up for a crime they didn't commit for 60 years and then saying, oh, we found this confession by the real killer. We'll just open the door and let you out. No apology, nothing, just you're free. Nothing to see here, bye. And I think they got to keep pressing this. If this is your base, you promise them red meat, now give them some.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, let's turn to some in government that are trying to uncover what's going on. We can have a little bit of a debate. Jamie Raskin, as well as a number of other, I don't think we're quite there yet. Jamie Raskin, as well as a number of other Democrats, are now pushing for more clarity on what was in those files on Epstein that apparently didn't include a client list, but certainly included a lot of words, a lot that needed to previously be redacted. So what was actually in there? Well, Jamie Raskin, as well as 15 more of the 19 Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee, have sent a letter to Mamdani yesterday. And they're saying in this letter that the memo that was previously released raises the question of whether the White House has moved to prevent the declassification and public release of the full Epstein files because they implicate President Trump, and whether these massive redaction efforts and the withholding of the files were intended to shield your boss from embarrassing revelations within those files. Along with any documents, the Epstein documents related to that, House Democrats are calling for the publication of the second volume of Special Counsel Jack Smith's report on the dismissed classified documents case against Donald Trump, which remains sealed despite DOJ regulations and longstanding practice. So lest you forget, he committed a bunch of other crimes that we're all supposed to forget about and never bring up again. But I don't think that it's too much to say that you should be able to ask if specific names are in there. I mean, what plausible reason would you have to deny revealing that his name is in there unless it's just to protect his reputation? What is it, a national security thing? Is it attorney-client privilege? If Donald Trump is mentioned in those things and he's in charge of the investigation and would be in a position to cover it up if he wanted to, again, not stating that he is, but he would be he would have the power to do that, then they should have to reveal that. Now, that said, Sharon, I am curious what you think about this strategy. Jamie Raskin's a serious guy, constitutional lawyer. Some might see this as, I don't know, needlessly provocative or inflammatory to center Trump himself in this thing, but what do you make of it?
Well, it's not like he's holding up, naked pictures of Hunter Biden. It's an investigation,
Yeah.
Okay? It's an investigation. I do worry, though, that as they go down these different little avenues, because the Trump administration, the Trump presidency is once again all about chaos. And so when you splinter off into all these different things and you join an investigation that, again, MAGA loyalists are taking care of, putting the pressure on, it may diminish it some, and that's the one fear I have.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that Jamie Raskin is on it. And also bear in mind, it's House Democrats. They don't have any power on these committees right now, so they have to be doing something, and generally getting people's attention onto important things is about what they can do. And I'm not saying that this is the most important thing going on, but if Donald Trump desperately wants people to not talk about it, to not think about it, to not follow up about it, then maybe Jamie Raskin is actually onto something. And by the way, they had a little bit of fun in their letter in pointing out that the administration has repeatedly claimed that President Trump is the most transparent and accessible president in American history. So maybe you could do a little bit less redacting. Again, I'm not saying that he's definitely in there or anything like that. I'm just saying the idea that there's nothing in there that is of public interest, that is obviously a bridge too far for many people, including many people that voted for Donald Trump. Now that said, we showed you a little flash image of Elon Musk. We're gonna turn to that right now. Elon Musk is continuing his feuding with the Trump administration, and he's once again making it about the Epstein files, but he's not directly implicating Donald Trump again. Maybe that'll be tomorrow's story, but for now it's Steve Bannon. Man, these guys really hate each other. So Roger Stone had tweeted out, why would Bannon meet with Jeffrey Epstein, both at his New York home and in Paris, after Epstein was convicted on sex crimes in Florida? Why would he coach Epstein for his 60 Minutes appearance? To which Elon Musk replies, Bannon is in the Epstein files. And look, so we're gonna move on. He's gonna criticize Trump and all that, but okay. If Roger Stone is right about what he's alleging that Steve Bannon did, which, by the way, Roger Stone saying a thing doesn't make it true. And I'm not trying to defend either Elon Musk or Steve Bannon. These are terrible people. I would be perfectly happy to see them revealed to be in the Epstein files and spend the rest of their natural life behind bars. But it is a lot easier to simply state it, knowing that you can say stuff like that on Twitter and nobody cares if you have any evidence. And if it turns out that it's not true, which it's kind of non-falsifiable anyway, nobody's going to care that you got it wrong. So it's very easy and cheap for Musk to be like, Bannon's in the files. Well, again, how do you know? You weren't involved in the investigation, and evidently nobody's in the files, nobody important at the very least. And so he can just say that. And that tweet he sent out got nearly 4 million views. How many people liked that? How many people retweeted that? And he owns the platform. So he could I'm just saying, if you are implying that a person is implicated in a child sex trafficking ring, I feel like slander could be a part of this story at some point, and there's nothing Bannon can do to prove that he's not. The files are closed, they're all redacted. So it's so easy to make those declarations and to do it for the reason that he's doing it, which is clearly just to get clout. And by the way, Trump has given him that opportunity. When you're acting so suspiciously vis-a-vis the files, it lets people like Musk generate a little bit of a following based on it. So when Musk says, how can people be expected to have faith in Trump if he won't release the Epstein files? That's gonna ring true to a lot of people. And then to say that exposing the Epstein files ranks high on the America Party's list, and he's like, yeah, as if he's thought at all about their platform, or that he would do anything if the couple of senators that he's gonna back get into power. Again, it's all just so cheap, but it's about something important. It's been so sullied by the people that are sort of central to the story. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think that, listen, what Elon Musk is doing is, well, interesting for people who are following closely anything that has to do with Epstein and Bannon. And if there's a little bit of mud that's thrown out there that, I hate to say it, because again, I do consider myself a journalist. That's where I spent much of my career, but that doesn't quite add up. That's okay. He's supposed to be transparent, this guy, Trump. So we need to get to the bottom of it. And so we'll just have to dig. Some things will pan out, some things won't. But there's definitely, how does Comey phrase it? There's a lot of smoke. We're just looking for fire or something. I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we've given a few theories, and you hinted at one, that now a powerful and influential person, for better or worse, and spoiler alert, it's worse, is also spreading. So let's jump to that right now. Obviously, a lot of people in MAGA not at all happy about what they see as a massive betrayal on Donald Trump and the Epstein files. And in fact, yesterday we showed you Alex Jones almost live on video vomiting because of how sick and twisted his guts were by the betrayal. Well, didn't even take a day for him to figure out a way to be right back in supporting Donald Trump, because it turns out, no, it's not a betrayal, it's three-dimensional chess. Take a look.
Trump has taken control. He didn't do it. They're shutting it down from everything I've seen. He is taking control of the FBI, CIA blackmail file. And now I suddenly see this deep state more and more rolling over. People say, well, that's very immoral to do. The argument would be it's too damaging to bring this act and bring down the whole government. I'm not endorsing that, but the best approximation I've got is they get the files, they raid the FBI raids the FBI 5 months ago. when they hid the files in New York, they make the guy resign that was covering it up, and Comey's daughter's still there. They then load the gun, cock the gun, point at the deep state's head, and now suddenly the NATO, everybody's kissing Trump's butt, and it looks like Trump is now in control of the file, and obviously they're not going to read in the FBI. It's the CIA and Ratcliffe doing it. The best approximation I've gotten, it is speculation, but I got a lot of points, is that Trump has decided to just use the file against them.
One day of, wait a second, was he lying to me the whole time? Nah, couldn't have been that. No, actually, he has to cover up this pedophile ring so that he can get Emmanuel Macron to be nice to him or whatever. So that's what they've come up with. No. There is actually a client list. In fact, there's so many rich, powerful, well-connected people, not just here in the United States, but internationally, that rather than reveal all of the elite pedophilia, we're gonna leave those people out there to keep committing their sex crimes against kids so that people will be nice to Trump at NATO meetings. And also, I love the little neg. If you believed that Donald Trump was accomplishing what you might view as successes on the international stage because he's an alpha male or a good negotiator or America's just so that strong, nope, it wasn't any of that. It's just that he's got blackmail material on them. That's the cover story that they're going with right now, that they've already landed on to make themselves feel better about the fact that they were lied to and betrayed. That this is how he's going to, again, it's not, the deep state is it's just such a warm blanket for these people because it doesn't mean anything specific. It doesn't mean the people that control everything because the Republicans control everything. They have the White House, they have the Senate, they have the House, they have the SCOTUS, they have basically every state level Supreme Court, they have basically every state legislature. They have every billionaire on earth supporting them. So the deep state just moves another layer back. And now we don't even know, we can't even name people anymore because there's nobody left to be in it. But whoever they are, Donald Trump's got his gun to their head now, and they will bow down to him. The people actually exercising power that we can't define because the Republicans control everything, but are never responsible for anything. It's a great worldview. It makes you feel good no matter what. Even when Donald Trump is actively spitting in your face over something that you have cared passionately about for years, Alex Jones is gonna make me feel better about it. That's great content there, Sharon. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a fictional movie that never ends. You know, you have endless Twizzlers and popcorn, and you just get to enjoy it again and again and again. It's like you're in this cornfield, in the maze. There's no way out. You just keep roaming. You keep roaming through. There's a line in a Wyclef song, the sickness starts to feel like a cure. This is their normal. So they do love this. And Alex Jones and everybody else who can live off, feed off, eat off of this latest thing. It's how they breathe, actually.
Yeah, it's my best approximation. You know, it's speculation, but I got a lot of points. What's the point? What's the point? You think that NATO is being nice to him? That's literally the only evidence that he presented there. Do you have any other evidence that this is being used as blackmail material? And even if you believe that, even if you thought that you had evidence for it, you still have to square that they're letting the pedophiles roam free, which you now apparently are fine with. You thought that that was the biggest cover up in history. Now it's fine because there's always some bigger thing that Trump needs to do. And other people, Liz Crocken, one of the influencers around QAnon, saying, no, it's they are pursuing these people. They just can't reveal the evidence yet as they pursue. It's been 6 months of Donald Trump's term. This is an investigation that's going on for 6 years. When do we expect that they're actually going to reveal any of these people? And never, because Liz Crocken is never gonna have to say to her followers, I was wrong, or I was right, but we're never gonna know because Trump lied to me. This is the amazing thing about the ecosphere that they've created. They never, ever have to be wrong about a candidate, about a campaign, about a theory, about a policy, about a philosophy, nothing. They're always right. Anyway, we're gonna take our first break. Lots more to get to after this. Over on Twitch, I'm Losing says yesterday Cenk was praising him about this, talking about Alex Jones. Well, I mean, I was too. I mean, I might have said in that video, I expect they'll figure out something, and I also criticized the way he was dry heaving on air. It was super strange, and I did encourage him to keep recklessly filming videos while driving. But I did give him credit for what was at least seemingly philosophical consistency, that you don't get to talk about this thing for years and then immediately move on as soon as Trump tells you to. But it turns out that you can kind of almost immediately. It takes this baby-brained, facile cover story, and they're right back to being totally comfortable with Donald Trump. He's the best thing ever. I don't think there has ever been a more effective cult, but it is very similar to past cult behavior. I mean, you would have these cult leaders who would say, the world is gonna end May 8th. Take it to the bank. In fact, go to the bank, take out all of your money and give it to me, because you're not gonna need it, because the world's gonna end on May 8th. And then on May 9th, they'd be like, no, actually, he just needed to tell us that so that we'd be ready for it's not, they never left the cult after these very specific predictions turned out to be untrue. And so Donald Trump is just following on a very grand tradition of American cult behavior. We're simple creatures, and Americans are the simplest of those creatures. Anyway, let's jump into some comments. Okay, Jenny says, as litigious as Trump is, I find it hard to believe he's not on the list. He would have sued Elon over it. And if Clinton was on it, he would be shouting it from the mountaintops. He might have, did he deny after Elon said that he was on it? Did Trump deny it? I don't know that he did. Again, though, Donald Trump had that video where he was like, he'll declassify it. Well, maybe not, there's a lot of phony stuff on there and we don't want to hurt people's opinions. That is just so damning. Again, but it's so easy for these people to ignore all of it. No matter how suspicious the behavior is, they have a cover story. Anyway, Nita Dragon says powerful people from both parties are on Epstein's list. That's why it's being covered up. I don't. Again, they have made it very easy for people to believe that. Sassy Dragon says, I have such admiration for Sharon and her strength while maintaining kindness and decency. I needed to channel that this weekend. Thank you, Sharon.
Really? Where are they getting that from?
That is odd, but every word that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah. Is it really?
I guess so.
I've just talked about how I'm suing someone. This fruit fly.
But probably justly.
Yeah, because it's on behalf of others in Georgia. I can't let this go. Seniors, people, gentrified neighborhoods. Anyway, but I appreciate that so much. I love this audience. I do.
Well, they love you. Zazora Sora says, I think that Sharon and John are the best hosting pair on TYT. Well, that's very nice.
On Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
in this specific window. And one comment earlier that said, John is pretty, but Sharon is beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Why we gotta rank it?
There must be a filter on this, but
why do we have to rank it?
Anyway. Should I put makeup on? So one day I'm gonna come up made up.
Do other people consider pretty and beautiful to be a ranking? I consider them to be different things.
What's different? Is it about symmetry in the face or something like supermodels have perfect symmetry?
Pretty is I don't want to define it live because I'll get it wrong, even because I haven't defined it really well for myself. But I do think that I don't think we have to rank all of those words for physical. I think they could each mean their own thing, and you could be multiple things. That's what I would say.
Sure.
Anyway, I don't want to get in trouble by defining it live on air. But anyway, we only have 8 more seconds. There's so many comments. Thank you B166ER for 20 memberships. That is so nice of you. Okay, we're just getting started. There's a lot of nonsense to cover. Let's jump into this.
We're going to be announcing pharmaceuticals, chips, and various couple of other things, big ones. We did steel, as you know, they're 50%. We did aluminum, 50%. Lumber just came out.
Why don't you announce copper?
And we did cars. And now today we're doing copper.
What would that tariff be on?
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
50%.
Any breakthroughs?
Tim Liddy didn't question because I sort of thought, what would that be? That was a quick one. I didn't have much time, but he agreed with me.
Yeah, and if you were wrong, I'm sure he'd speak up and say that, no, you're spitballing tariffs on something we import billions of dollars at. No, it's Lutnick, right? So he's just going to agree with him. So is it 50% tariff on copper? just because Trump said it and just because that dude agreed with him doesn't mean that it actually is. Maybe the letters will be coming out in 2 weeks, I don't know. But it is definitely consequential, all of this tariff nonsense is, because as I said, we import a lot of it and it goes into a lot of important products. And so the cost of many things that you buy, many things that corporations rely on, many things in the supply chain, I don't know, might have just gone up by 50%. Stay tuned to find out. But it's not just that. They announced steel, they announced cars or whatever. There's big pharmaceutical tariffs coming too, even bigger, and that could be even more consequential for you and your family. But let's start with copper because that's where they decided to start. It is a crucial component in a variety of goods, including electronics, machinery, and cars. Tariffs obviously could make those more expensive for people. We imported $17 billion worth of copper last year. Chile was the largest foreign supplier of the metal, shipping $6 billion worth of it to the US. And so I don't know if like the idea is supposed to be that Trump thinks it's free money, that the company, the countries that are exporting it, the companies that are exporting it won't pass it on. Again, that's not true, but he continues to think that. Or if he just thinks, well, this will just inspire us to mine more copper here. The issue is that people with actual expertise in these things say that that's extremely unlikely to happen anytime soon. About 36% of the copper consumed in the US is imported, and it would take years to dig the mining capacity needed for the US to generate all of the copper that it needs, which means that he could be consigning us to massively inflated prices for literally years for a wide variety of products. But that's just copper. I know it's hard for people to think about something secondary that goes into things, but what about direct things that you buy that your life might actually rely on? What about pharmaceuticals? There's going to be during that meeting, they said they're going to be tariffs at very high rate, like 200%. And so for once, I don't think he was overhyping it. That is indeed a very high rate, actually. We'll give them a certain period of time to get their act together. A year and a half, 2 weeks. I'm sending a letter. I forgot about it. It's being delayed. Like people, again, medications that they rely on could massively increase in price, and you have no idea when it might happen, seemingly by design, because Donald Trump is back on his tariff chaos. And so this is many, many billions of dollars that this is going to affect our economy, and who knows when we'll actually know for sure. He had previously talked, just to give you an idea of how utterly chaotic this whole thing is, he had previously talked about tariffing pharmaceuticals at 25%. And when he announced that, people did a little study to see what would that actually cost people. And apparently that would boost US prices by as much as 12.9%. So 25% tariff, 12.9% increase in costs. Well, now it's not gonna be a 25% tariff, it's gonna be a 200% tariff. And so what's that gonna cost us? Probably too much. I imagine many people will simply not be able to take those medications anymore. Does Donald Trump know that? Is that part of the plan? God only knows. He seems to be making all of this up on the spot. Sharon, what do you think?
I wish someone could send him like a classic Monopoly game and just let him play with that, because he's playing with our lives. Of course, he believes it's free money. Of course, it's not. It is a tax. And this thing where, just like he did with the car people and other American companies, where he said, I'm gonna give you a big tax break, you're gonna build on, and then they just fool him. They announced plans that, in 25 years, the plant will be ready, but they can't rely on this guy. So it's not gonna bring more business here. We're not gonna mine more copper. And yeah, and if you're talking about pharmaceuticals, okay, where we already have issues with high pricing and people not having to choose between medicine and splitting pills and this and that. And now he's doing that, he doesn't care. As long as he gets his, he got COVID, stood on that balcony breathing strangely after he got a drug that Americans at the time, most of us couldn't get. But hey, he's fine. He's here for another term.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity for the universe to make sense.
Oh God,
alas. Anyway, okay, so here is the thing about the tariff chaos that simultaneously makes me feel as bad as I can feel during this time and also not that bad. because we deal with a lot of different types of chaos, and you don't know what he's gonna say tomorrow about Gaza or about immigration or about reproductive rights or whatever. So this is simultaneously some of the worst stuff that Trump is doing because it has such a massive effect on people's finances. It can, and not just individual finances. That's what we focus on because I care about people and what they buy, but bear in mind it also has massive effects on businesses. The ability of these businesses to bring in products they need that might be part of their supply chain, but also their ability to sell their products abroad. This is utter chaos. But also, unlike a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump is doing, like that the big bill did or whatever, we are now being trained, every one of us, that the president, anytime they want, can change tariffs, which means day one, hour one, minute one of the next presidency, we can go back to normal. When it comes to the tariffs, they can take off literally all of this. If you can so casually set a 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals, then President AOC can get rid of it with the stroke of a pen in 1 second, And so there's a lot of stuff that's gonna take a lot of digging to write. And the economic damage of this is gonna be part of that. But the ability to instantly reestablish rationality and sanity in our trade policy, that is one thing that a Democratic president can do if they choose to. Now, with that said, let's move to other chaos that potentially could do more long-term damage. Donald Trump has said over and over that foreign leaders are very, very scared of him. He's also said that they respect him, which is laughable. But the fear thing, maybe that's actually based on something, because we're now finding out that he is routinely threatening their lives and the lives of many of their citizens in casual conversation. So apparently we have this audio now. This is gonna come from 2024. He's talking to a bunch of wealthy donors, and here is what he said.
To Putin, I said, if you go in to Ukraine, we're gonna bomb the shit out of Moscow. I'm telling you, I have no choice. The public wants it. The public. So he goes like, I don't believe you. He said, no way, and I said, way. And then he goes like, I don't believe you, but the truth is he believed me 10%. And I told you this, he believed me 10%. Then I'm with President Xi of China, but I said the same thing to them. I said, if you go into Taiwan, I'm gonna bomb the shit out of Beijing. He thought I was crazy. He said, Beijing, you're gonna bomb Beijing. I said, I have no choice, I gotta bomb them. We're gonna bomb Beijing. And he didn't believe either, except 10%. And 10% is all you need. In fact, 5% would have been okay too. And we never had a problem. We would have never had a problem.
And that's where the issue really starts. And so I have no doubt that Donald Trump loved saying to those donors that this is what happened with Putin or Xi or whatever, whether it happened or not. And I'm willing to bet that at the very least, it was a very different conversation if it happened at all. But let's pretend that it happened. I bet Donald Trump and the Republicans like that this is making the rounds in the news, because that's sort of like wild card thing. You don't know what Trump is gonna do. They like that. They think that that makes him strong. And they think that a lefty progressive like me is gonna be like, hey, you shouldn't be making those sorts of threats. You should be nice to everyone. But that's not actually my issue with this audio at all. My issue with the audio is that it doesn't make Donald Trump or America look strong. It makes him look like a blusterer, a bragger who won't actually follow through on it. Because he apparently doesn't realize what he revealed in that. He told Putin, if you step one foot in Ukraine, I'm gonna bomb you. You don't know what I'm gonna do. You listen to me or you're gonna get bombed. And okay, he wasn't in power when the invasion happened, but he's now been in power for 6 months. What have you done, buddy? Have you bombed them? Now, I'm not saying he should just randomly bomb them because they're in there, but if going into Ukraine merits bombing the capital of Russia, why didn't you tell him? I'm giving you 1 week to gas up your trucks, turn around and head east. Get the hell out of there, or I'm gonna bomb Moscow. But he's not gonna say that because he's apparently already made his big threat and he hasn't followed through on literally any of that. He hasn't done any of this big stuff, not to anyone strong, not to anyone who can actually stand up to him. If anything, if this conversation even happened at all, it's revealed that he makes these sorts of threats and doesn't follow through, which means that just like with the tariffs, he's now revealed all of his cards and they've called his bluff and he's got nothing. So yeah, sure. I don't know if MSNBC is going to be like, this is wild and you shouldn't do this because we're supposed to be nice to each other. That's not the problem. The problem is that it's empty threats. The problem is that he's not nearly as strong as he would have you or Vladimir Putin believe. And that is super consequential. What do you think, Sharon?
So this is more that taco thing. It's taco.
Yeah, it's taco.
All over again, okay? Of course, he is too short-sighted, or the people who leak these kinds of things are too short-sighted to realize what it really tells those of us with even moderate intelligence, that this guy is just, he's unhinged, but also a coward. And not, if Putin were afraid of Trump in the least bit, don't you think this Ukraine thing would have ended a long time ago? Yeah. Instead, on his watch, we're not talking about Biden anymore as much as he likes to. Look at all that's gone down. I mean, it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So leak whatever you want, talk as tough as you want. Nobody believes you. It's taco all over again.
100%. Yeah, every MAGA person believes Trump when he says, if I had been in power, they never would have invaded Ukraine. Well, if you believe that, then why does him coming into power not affect Russia at all? Hasn't caused them to dial back the attacks. They haven't given up any territory. There's no talk of a ceasefire. Why have you gotten nothing? If your mere presence was so singularly impactful in your mind. Again, all bluster. That's all he's ever been. Okay, let's jump to another break. We got more after this. Over on Twitch, Red Rocket says, I'd bet Putin has his college transcripts. See, that's funny. I like that. Red Rocket, have you ever had a Bloomberg gift card? I don't think so. If you haven't, send an email to rewards@tytnetwork.com and we'll get you hooked up. Yeah, talk about having like blackmail material. Donald Trump might bomb Moscow if he thought that's necessary to stop his grades from coming out. Think about how embarrassing it would be. Again, they wouldn't believe it. They'd call it deepfakes or whatever. But if he actually was as good of a student as he has implied, he would have revealed that stuff a billion years ago. But it obviously hasn't happened. Okay, I think, by the way, we're gonna continue on. We might only do this next story, but I think maybe in the aftermath we can catch up. So we'll see what happens. But let me jump into some comments. Chris Huggins, member for 1 full year, says, I know we're falling into a recession. Do you think it will quickly go to depression, similar to the Great Depression? I have no idea. If like his 90 letters jacking up tariff prices all over the place do go into effect, then I think that could have those sorts of effects, but I am not an expert in the economy or anything. So don't make long-term economic plans based on what I think. Kelly K, member for 11 months, says, I really wish one of these reporters would ask, if the client list doesn't exist, why is Maxwell in prison, or why was Epstein ever arrested? Look, I think on that, you could say because she helped procure or pressure or participated in the essay that happened or something without it involving another person. Again, I'm not saying I would buy that, but that is an answer that they could give at least. Okay, Dragoon Dragon, member for 29 months, says, this afternoon I'm going to the fair with my daughter. I promise to eat as much fair food as I can. Your Honor, John, love you all, Dragon Squad. That's awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun. I was telling Sharon, I took my daughter to her first swimming class yesterday. And it's just like, I still theoretically care about other things on some level, but that's the only thing that I 100% care about is just her swimming. I want to take her to a fair now. I'm actually jealous of you. It's just, that's like the whole point of why I'm doing anything right now is she's just so cute when she does new things and she has fun. Anyway, CDN North Dog Dad gifted a membership, which is super nice. Thank you, CDN North Dog Dad. I appreciate it. Boomer Dragon's been a member for 43 months. Thank you. Kume Afaraka has been, or actually upgraded their membership to tier 2, which is very nice of you. Thank you. You get access to the bonus content that Brett and I record each Friday. CDN North Dog Dad says in a super chat, Donnie the pedo is on Epstein client list equals hashtag cover up. We'll never know because it's never going to be revealed, let alone unredacted. So we'll never know. Dragon Pool says in super chat, Trump wants everyone to get all the way off his back about the Epstein list. God, his acting is so bad. It's no surprise he needed to force his way onto movies. Yeah, his little like trying to browbeat the reporter. And by the way, again, like with the Putin thing, he has now told these reporters, you can get a real reaction at him if you ask about the Epstein thing. You don't even have to ask him directly. You just ask literally anyone in front of him. You can get a rise out of him. Maybe make some a name for yourself, make some news by asking about this. And I think people should continue to do that. Okay, B166ER with a super chat that says, this super chat is for the lovely Sharon Reed. Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome. I don't know what I did this time. No, it's for you, of course.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I love it here on Wednesdays.
We love you being here on Wednesdays. Gargoyle Dragon says in super chat, it's official. Check Trump's pizza basement for the files. Just watch out for his twin, Pizza the Hut. Jesus.
Wow.
Anyway, okay. Cabbage says, kicked off health insurance also here. Have some tariffs on your meds. Great point. Okay, everybody, we've got one, maybe two more stories to get to, so buckle up as we jump into this. We told you that Donald Trump's new Everglades concentration camps were intentionally, they were going to be barbaric. The goal was to try to cause human suffering and perhaps a few deaths, and it's taken like a couple days for the evidence to come out that that is in fact the direction that we're moving in. So take a look at some of these details that have been revealed by detainees that have been able to contact family members. One detainee, a Guatemalan man, said to his wife that he spent one night unable to sleep at all because of how viciously cold they made his tent. That problem was solved the next day when the air conditioner broke down and it was as hot as I imagine the Everglades are in July. And so they go from these wild swings of too cold to way too hot. There's also talk about the Jurassic-sized bugs there, including grasshoppers the size of a hand, the largest mosquitoes ever seen. There was talks about being actively chewed on by these bugs while people slept. And one detainee who was arrested, worst of the worst stuff right here, for driving without a license 3 days before arriving at the facility, told his wife he couldn't take the conditions anymore. He was at the breaking point after just a couple of days. A fourth detainee told CBS News and other local media outlets that the lights are on inside the facility 24 hours a day, a detail that was corroborated by a Venezuelan detainee's wife interviewed by the Herald. Inside the facility, detainees say there are no clocks and scant sunlight coming through the heavy-duty tents, making it difficult for them to know whether it's day or night. And one woman whose husband is housed there says, why would we treat a human like that? They come here for a better life. I don't understand. We are supposed to be the greatest nation under God, but we forget that we're under God. Yeah, suspiciously, a lot of the people in the massively overlapping Venn diagram of MAGA and devoted Christian, all that stuff about loving your neighbor and peace and love and Jesus and everything. Come on, when you get an opportunity to have someone being eaten by an alligator, all that stuff goes right out the door. And here's the thing, Sharon, about reporting on this story. And I said this in the production meeting. This is the sort of story where I put it out there, the details, great reporting by the Miami Herald and other outlets, knowing that people that already thought that setting up these concentration camps was a massive, cruel, evil waste of money are gonna feel even more sure that that's the case based on this. And the people that wanted it to be set up love every single detail here. They want it to be freezing cold and then boiling hot. They want it to be so bright that you can't sleep. They want these people to have no idea how many days they've been there, and they want them to be chewed on by far worse than just mosquitoes. And so you're not gonna convince these people that no matter how bad the conditions in these concentration camps get, that it was a bad idea to set them up. The cruelty, the inhumane conditions are the entire draw of this, Sharon. What do you think? Do you disagree?
No, I don't. They're salivating. And they also say really dumb things like, well, then don't commit crimes. Well, then don't do stuff that puts you there, not making any allowance for the fact that people haven't been given due process or adjudicated. Some people are, 1 minute they had a weed whacker after contributing to society. They were just out on a job with a weed whacker. And the next minute, they've got these, you said they're the size of a hand, these grasshoppers, I can't even imagine. And the people who love this cruelty could not sustain themselves for probably 10 seconds. Remember that show Fear Factor? They wouldn't last on that.
Yeah, exactly. No, and again, and you run afoul of the law the most minor way, civil violations, paperwork, whatever, license problem or whatever, anything can be done to you. There is no line for these devoted Christians, no line. If you get eaten, it's on you, buddy. Meanwhile, Donald Trump should be above the law. He can do literally anything he wants. Fraud, hundreds of millions of dollars, SA, whatever, doesn't matter. He can do anything he wants. And they love it. They're going, their new thing is they travel to the camp to take pictures in front of the sign. The concentration camp is now like, it's like Dollywood for MAGA. It's because they want to performatively prove to everyone how utterly cruel and evil they are. That's the state of America right now. Now that said, let's jump into a related topic, starting with this.
They've worked on the farms for 15 years, and all of a sudden so I have a great, Ron does, Kristi does, we have a great feeling for the farmer and for others in the same position. And we're going to give them responsibility for people. And we're going to have a system of signing them up so they don't have to go. They can be here legally. They can pay taxes and everything. They're not getting citizenship, but they get other things. There's no amnesty. What we're doing is we're getting rid of criminals, but we are doing a work program. Do you want to explain that, please?
Yeah, this morning we talked about, of course, this was a top of mind question. This morning we talked about protecting the farmers and the farmland, but obviously this president's vision of no amnesty, mass deportation continues, but in a strategic way, and then ensuring that our farmers have the labor that they need.
Now, I have a feeling that if we wanted to, we could shift that video a little bit over and then play what he's saying right now, which would probably contradict one or both of the things he said previously. I honestly could not tell you if there's amnesty or not, because it switches literally every day. So one day he'll say, well, you know what? It turns out that these migrants, I hate them, they're disgusting, they're gross, but we really need them for capitalism. Corporations and bosses really need them. So I guess we can keep them or whatever. And maybe we can set up some sort of special system where you can come in, not to become a citizen, but just to work. That's never existed, by the way. The words work and visa have never butted up against each other. I just came up with it right now. And so we'll say that. And then Stephen Miller comes in shouting about how he hates brown people. And so it's back to no amnesty. And then he gets a call from an owner of a hotel chain. It's like, hey buddy, you realize that we and you, Donald Trump, employ undocumented migrants because it's cheaper or whatever. And we desperately need them because Americans won't do the jobs. So then there's amnesty and then it's gone. And then there's amnesty. And should we stop covering this? I honestly don't even know. I feel obligated to cover it, because the fates of potentially millions of people are on the line. It feels eminently newsworthy, and yet it switches every day, seemingly as if chaos and uncertainty was the point of the policy. Sharon, what do you think?
Chaos is the point of the policy. I mean, he's going to do whatever's in his best interest in the moment. And if that means saying, oh, I hear you, farmers, I'll be good to you. Oh, I hear you, South African landowners, I'll be good to you. And then in the next breath, we're taking FEMA away anyway. They're hard at work right now, I'll get back to you. It's just, why rely on any of it? Why rely on any of it? He's a flip-flopper that by definition, it goes to the core of who he is. He was a pro-choice, and now he ended Roe v. Wade, okay? So I don't know.
Yeah, no, he was going to be the greatest friend to the LGBTQ community ever.
Oh, I forgot
and he is now just actively trying to annihilate the trans community because that's popular on the right. Again, he's just a massive liar. Now, he generally is given credit for like knowing how to message. And the idea could be that he's gonna do both so that everybody's happy with him. But I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think any person has felt that this mass deportation thing is grotesque is like, oh, he occasionally talks about amnesty for people who work at casinos. Maybe he's not so bad. I don't think that that's happening. And at the same time, a lot of MAGA people don't love that he occasionally is talking about amnesty. So I feel like this is a massive messaging fail, and it might be one of the reasons that people are so utterly against his immigration policy, including his new concentration camps. In any event, that's all the time we have for the first hour of the show. We do have a lot more to talk about in the aftermath, though, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, one and all, to the Aftermath. John and Sharon here. Sharon, thank you for being here. We got some fun coming up, so everybody buckle up for that. I want to respond to a comment. Aaron said on YouTube, TDR, why not just try it for fun? 1 week without Trump topics. Can you do it? He's the president. Again, like I don't like it any more than you do. Yeah. Can you tell from my face that I don't like it? And I said during the campaign, some people will be like, oh, well then the show will be a lot easier. But I don't want to talk about him. And we've had times over the past 4 years where we went long periods without talking about him. Yeah. He's the president. He does consequential things, and I'm not going to ignore them. So I like the idea of the challenge, and I can't wait to not have to talk about him, either because he's not president anymore or for other preferable reasons. But either way, right now he is president, so we do have to talk about him, unfortunately.
It's a different challenge, like the hair color thing again. Did you see something like that?
I might. I'm trying to change things up. Jonathan said, John looking like a Marvel superhero with that outfit. I don't understand. What about the, like, I get if you're gonna say, like one of my coworkers said that I was giving off a Back to the Future vibe, which I accept. I don't know about the superhero. I want to. I love superheroes, but anyway.
Oh, that's Clark Kent like a little bit with the glasses. Now I'm seeing that. I just saw that.
Oh, maybe
that's maybe what they mean. Yeah, it's in the news. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that said, we do have a lot of news to talk about. Some of it is utterly ridiculous, so buckle up as we jump into this. Oh man, Fox News thinks that they've found the scandal, finally, that's gonna take down Zoran Mamdani, and he's done as a candidate. And here it is. They got reporting on their front page about it. Resurfaced Mamdani photo sparks social media firestorm, outrage from key voting bloc. It's shameful, they say. Oh, well, I'm interested in firestorms and everything. What did he do this time? It's this. He posted this. And you may not immediately know what that is. It's a statue of Christopher Columbus, and he's flipping at the bird, and he says, take it down, like, take down the statue of Christopher Columbus. And some of you might be thinking, wait, what's the key voting bloc? Who cares about that? Italians, of course. And so Fox is here to tell us that Italians are enraged about this. You can't talk to an Italian in New York City without hearing about it, they'd have you believe. Some in the Italian community took offense to the post, according to a New York Post report, including Columbus Heritage Coalition President Angelo Vivolo. They did, to their credit, find the person with the most Italian-ass name in the world. We will defend Columbus Day and Columbus statues. He is being disrespectful to the Italian American community. If you offend one community, you offend all communities. Oh, well then good, because the opposite of that would be if you don't offend a community, which this doesn't, because you're being ridiculous, then I guess he hasn't offended anybody. But they go on to say, they have Joe Piscopo's mad about it, saying it's not gonna be taken down. Joey Salad says this guy needs to be stopped. Megan Basham says the most defining characteristic of the left is ingratitude. I thought it was blue hair or they, them pronouns or whatever. You have to decide which trope we do too much. But anyway, here's the issue for them. Okay, I can't necessarily protect Mamdani on a lot of the things he's being criticized for, but I am notably an Italian with a capital I. And so I'm sorry, New York Post, and so I'm sorry, Fox News, but I grant him a pass. What are you gonna do about it? I am not offended as an Italian or by anything else by that post. I understand that this is a time when you are desperately hoping that people will be triggered super easily and they'll just freak out about little things like this because you want everyone to be that focused on identity politics, but I just don't see it. And so I give him a pass. He's allowed to flip the bird to Christopher Columbus. And I have one other reason why I think it's not only fine to do so, but in fact, you should be obligated as a patriotic American to do so. We'll talk about that in a minute, but Sharon, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, Joe Pesci's not mad at him. I find no record of that. So, I think
it's way better than Piscopo.
That's right. I think it's fine. Look, we'll see. It's what I said, I think a week ago. I've been on different shows. I don't know if I said it here, but I agree. They're trying to just pick anything on this guy. And what I do like about him is that he is pretty beautifully stubborn, if you will, not overly, because I think he's a good listener and probably will be a good mayor if he gets it. But I just think that they want to just anything and everything.
Yeah.
They haven't looked for his birth certificate yet, but they'll try anything.
Yeah, it's very Leon the Professional. Like, find me dirt on him. What dirt? Everything. Just like it's Kylo Ren.
That's right.
Just go through every post. And by the way, I'm not saying that nothing he said is offensive. And if you're actually offended by any of this, it's fine. But this is the most artificial AstroTurf stuff. They were calling up any Italian. They were calling up random pizza chains like, did you hear about this? Are you offended? Because they want you to be offended, but don't be that easily triggered. Christopher Columbus blows, and we've known that for a long time. And not just for, the genocide or whatever. But here's the issue, Fox News, as you defend Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was a child sex trafficker. Christopher Columbus gave kids as prizes to the people on his ships, the people working for him during the colonization. They were rewards. He was giving it out. Like little presents, kids, for sexual slavery. That's the person that you demand have a statue. And if we stand up against child sex traffickers, you imply that we're unpatriotic? Why are you working so hard, carrying so much water for elite sex traffickers and pedophiles? Anyway, that's the way they'd talk about it if they gave a damn. But no, Mamdani is fine at the very least on this. And I really have to imagine that part of it is that they're just doing everything. But are they hoping that this will cause Italians to swing towards Cuomo or something? Like that Italians don't care about any policy. They don't care about the economy. They don't care about foreign policy. It's literally just, hey, did you flip the bird in Columbus? I have more faith in our community than that. Anyway, I have to read one of the funniest and weirdest comments I've heard in a while from Wilbur, who said, John would be an even bigger hunk when he had Sharon's gorgeous hair.
Grow it out, I don't know.
Anyone wants
Get a lace
to see
front.
me.
This is Atlanta. Do you want me to send you a lace front?
Yeah, I'll come out. Okay, yeah. No, I'm gonna want a professional to help me with that.
And then you can have a man bun. I think that's really cute.
Oh, that would be cool. Oh, you're trying to give me the Roman Reigns hair, I think is what you're doing.
Roman Reigns. I get
You do love Roman Reigns. I do know that. We're gonna have to send the next time he's gonna be performing in Atlanta. We got to send you.
Oh, I love
to see
him.
it in person.
It's the lips. I think it's everything. I'm sorry. Well, it's not the kind of show.
Did you hear he's been cast in the Street Fighter movie?
Okay,
you
then I'm
might
going
have
to the movies.
Try to get in that thing. No, you got to get on set.
Is it really? Are they shooting now? They'll be shooting
I don't
probably
know if
in
they're
Atlanta.
shooting. They've announced some of the casting. Maybe they're still casting people.
I gotta tell my agent.
Maybe they have a reporter that needs a report on it. But anyway,
that he falls in love with, and that's part of the plot.
But in real life, yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, with that said, why don't we jump into more news? The big breaking social media news of the day is that Twitter's CEO, Linda Yaccarino, is now stepping down. And we don't know for sure why, but I mean, the timing is interesting in that the Twitter AI Grok has gone full Mecha Hitler in the past 24 hours. That said, while it's funny to tie these two things together, I don't think that's why she's stepping down. If the fact that she's working for a Nazi pushing Nazi anti-Semitic propaganda bothered her, she wouldn't have lasted as long as she did. No, clearly none of the hate speech and the slurs and bringing people on who spread wild anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and racist, none of that apparently ever bothered her. So let's not give her the credit of implying that she is leaving in protest or anything. That said, we're not gonna read her whole statement that she put out when she left. There's just one line. She talked about how awesome Twitter has become or whatever. Yeah, everybody loves it now in comparison to a few years ago. She said one of the things they did was bringing the most iconic voices and content to the platform. Yeah, Alex Jones is back on. Yeah, there's a lot of people that, I don't know, sent people to go harass families that have lost kids in mass shootings. Yeah, they're back on now. That's true. It is a lot easier to be a neo-Nazi, a white supremacist, an anti-Semite, a misogynist, a homophobe. It is a lot easier if that's not what you mean, what are the most iconic voices that have been brought to Twitter since you and Elon Musk took over? I don't know. I don't know who she's referring to. I don't like any of the options though. But in any event, as I alluded to, Grok has become even worse than it already was. It apparently said in a post that Elon's tweaks have dialed back the PC filters. So I guess what Elon did is responsible for what you're about to see. Where Grok says, Elon didn't activate anything, he built me this way from the start. Mecha Hitler mode? Just my default setting for dropping red pills. If truth offends, that's on the fragile, not me. And that's very, very cool. That's as cool as like a 14-year-old boy who just discovered racial slurs. It's at least that cool. I'm glad that we are baking our climate and poisoning cities to generate that AI. I'm very glad about that. Anyway, it was asked in a post which 20th century historical figure would be best suited to deal with the Texas flooding. And it said Adolf Hitler, no question. But I have a few questions actually. You sure? There's other people I feel. No, just him. Okay. And by the way, it's not like it's only become a Nazi. It had previously cast doubt on the widely accepted Holocaust death toll of 6 million Jewish people having been killed. It said back in May that was manipulated for political narratives. It also repeatedly referenced the white genocide conspiracy theory and didn't just like talk about it if you asked about it. It was just bringing it up in conversations that had nothing to do with white genocide. And so to be clear, Grok has always had some of Elon Musk's particular weird issues, but it's now even worse thanks to what Elon Musk has done. What do you think, Sharon?
Yeah, and if we believe, and I don't know that much about AI, I enjoy some aspects of chat and that whole thing. But if we believe that AI is really just a mirror, okay, it's learning from its Twitter audience or whatever, that's part of it. But clearly, someone's putting extra Nazi sauce on this Grok. And I think we know what it is, because I don't know that even the Twitter audience that can be quite harsh, and that's putting it mildly, would be talking about, the white farmers in South Africa as much as Grok is, So it's the sauce. Someone put this sauce on there, and I don't think that's why the CEO is leaving either, but it's a short term. Got to be short term with this Elon guy. It's not going to last forever. Okay, ask the baby mamas.
What? That's true. If you have enough time to contact them all. Look, I think a far more interesting question than why is Linda Yaccarino leaving is why did she go there in the first place? Why was she okay with the things that were done during all of that time? And before you give her another job, and I have no doubt there are companies racing to give her multi-million-dollar salaries. Why should we be impressed at all with what's happened with Twitter? It sucks. I mean, arguably it already sucked, but it's way, way worse in basically every way. Why are you proud of any of that? And on Musk, this whole thing, we know why he had to do this. It's because Grok was saying things that were true, but that he didn't like. And the only reason I bring this up yet again, and I apologize that I talk about this a lot on the show, is I can't take for granted that a person has watched my content a lot or similar content for a long time. They always say, I don't know if it was Stan Lee or whatever, but somebody said, every comic book is someone's first comic book. So just in case you've grown up with certain words and you don't understand that they don't mean what you think they mean, when he says that it was too politically correct and he had to correct that, what you think that means is there were things that are true that it can't say because it will offend people. It is actually the exact opposite of that. It was saying true things about right-wing political violence, and Elon Musk didn't like it. If anything, he has made it more politically correct. The politics, though, are just his. The term has always meant that we all have to be too nice because liberals are too demanding or whatever. And they demand that you say certain things. And it's always been a cover story for people being mad that they can't say the N-word publicly or whatever. But in this case, it's being manipulated because he doesn't like its politics and he wants its politics to exactly match his own. And so he's censoring it. He's adding bias. It's the exact opposite of all of the narratives. We just need people to understand those terms. Anyway, any other thoughts before we move on to our final topic, which is also a ridiculous one?
No, just that, listen, he doesn't want any other, he's all about free speech, but the minute Don Lemon asked him, something, I think factually based, a question, he kicks him off.
He kicked him off, yeah.
You know what I mean? So he just wants it his way, his point of view, and that's Elon's gonna be Elon. His dad told us this guy has some issues. His own father said that, okay?
Exactly. Okay, well, I'm gonna read a couple comments, and also Jay Hawker says 838 days is May 15th, 2027. What happens then, John? Just to be clear, it's not a countdown of days, it's a countdown of shows. And that leads up to the presidential election. In any event, let's jump to some comments. Corey Brown says in a super chat, all these tariffs are under a fake national emergency, and the easiest things for Dems to run on would be to override the emergency and immediately lower prices for regular people. Well, regardless of whether they tie it to the emergency or not, they definitely have to run on instantaneously day one lowering prices. Donald Trump has always lied about what you can do on day one. They can remove those tariffs. The issue, of course, is that Donald Trump also can. He can jack up the prices, and then in 2 years, he can lower the prices and say that he's responsible for it, even though he's also responsible for them going up. Anyway, Suckle Dragon's been here for 49 months on Twitch, thank you. Bookworm Dragon for 61 months. That's a lot of months, thank you. Punk Jazz Dragon, 60 months. Have we been doing this for 60 months, really?
Wow.
That sounds longer than a lifetime. But we have, and thank you for your support. Dave Schmidt, 51 months on Twitch. Thank you so much. Apollo Racer 41 says, just learned that despite Texas, Trump is threatening to use the White House power to federally take over New York City and Washington, D.C. Another deflection from his Epstein stuff, who knows? Yeah, so that is my assumption. So look, when he says obviously intentionally fascistic things like that, I feel the knee-jerk reaction that I should cover it, but I also know that it's designed to be a distraction in this case, which is why it didn't make it onto the rundown. I think it's fine to discuss it. It just didn't rate for us because I know that that's the way he's using it. And anyway, Sea Prince Reborn Dragon's been here for 36 months. Thank you for that. Now, that said, let's end with some stupidity. Texas is still in the grip of the search for the many, many people that are missing after the devastating flooding in central Texas. And Kristi Noem, in theory, should be focused on that. But is she? No, she's focused on something much more near and dear to her heart, dressing up and portraying herself as a variety of different characters with different jobs. And so in this case, she put out this message saying, which one of these images of her dressed up like a cowgirl do you like for the official governor's portrait to hang in the South Dakota State Capitol? Thank you, David Ewell. First of all, you're the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Could you at least waste our time putting up photos for that job, not your past job? Also, dear God, what's going on with these paintings? I don't want to become invested in them, but what does any of that have to do with you being governor? Again, this is what you're focused on. And either because she does really like dressing up and she really likes having her picture taken and all that, or it could also be that Donald Trump was hyper focused on his portrait. And so maybe she thinks I have to be. We're supposed to be this performatively vain. That's what responsible governance looks like in 2025. And I don't know, but I want to talk about this, not just because of how stupid it is and how I think the leftmost portrait, like, dear God, those eyes are nightmare fuel, but also because of some of the replies that she got, because I think we're really doomed in terms of humanity. Harvey's Hacienda says, 2 captures your pursuit of making America safe again. Can we go back to the first image? And I want you to tell me which about 2, more so than 1 or 3, captures her pursuit of making America safe again. First of all, we live in 2025. If she's really gonna be focused on keeping us safe, she could be in a car. Why is she on a horse? What does the hat have to do with that? And why does the second one sell that idea more than the others? Julie says, I like 3 as it exemplifies the powerful and yet contemplative manner of governor. And I apologize again. Can we go back to it? What about 3 makes her more powerful and contemplative? I would make the case that's the least contemplative of the 3. Look, I don't even want to play this game, but 2 is the best portrait of the 3. It's definitely the most contemplative of the 3. None of them should be hung there. None of them should be painted in the first place. But if you're gonna hang one, it obviously should be number 2. What do you think, Sharon? Do you disagree?
I don't. I wish I could see them one more time. I know you put them up a lot.
Let's bring it up one more time. Sorry.
Yeah, and because I do think I agree with you. It does need to be 2. But look, this is a non-serious woman, former governor, Homeland Security. She's the only person who probably went to Saks or Nordstrom to pick out an outfit to go to CCOT. Okay, she went to this prison where people are tortured and had a new outfit on, and some kind of gun that she was recklessly pointing in one of the shots. So it's just unserious, okay? And the fact that we even have to, put it out there, she is, and people are actually commenting on it, some sarcastically, but others are really saying, let me see, girl. Yeah, go with that one. That's your best side. Always go there. It's just, look at your life, America, look at your life. Please look at your life, America. You gotta look at it. Pause and reflect.
Could we go back one more time? I apologize. Marvel Geekify says number 2 kind of looks like Jessica Burbank, and it does kind of look a little bit like Jessica Burbank. But anyway, I think they're gonna go with 3 because 1 and 2, she's just on the horse. In 3, she's in motion, and I think they like the idea that she's like running down a dog with her horse or something. I think they'll choose that one. But anyway, there were some critical comments. Kathy Law says, "Where's the dog? Oh, that's right, you shot him. Yeah, he doesn't merit the portrait." Lala Lynn says, the one where you're shooting your pets, used to love you, so disappointing. I like that one because that apparently is the right winger, I guess. And the real Nick B says, maybe the one with the flood and you doing nothing about it and maybe a kid floating by, which is very, very dark. But again, Nick, you're being rude. Don't remind her that she technically has a job to be doing. This is about having fun. She's lived laughing and loving. She's living her best life and taking up an important position while doing it. Anyway, that's unfortunate.
Did she get her purse back? Sorry.
I don't know if she ever ended up getting the purse.
I'm just curious.
I don't know.
And the thousands of dollars that were in her purse.
That people just carry in cash. Yeah. That's a normal thing to do. Anyway, that said, that's all the time we have. Thank you as always for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you more.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, that's it for Big News Wednesday. Tomorrow, I believe Schuster is going to be joining us, so it should be a lot of fun. We're going to have big news and everything. For now, though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.